come to Quest? Ooh, good question. I think mostly the academics and mostly the like. I need to talk to you.
I know.
Mostly, I guess the academic and the academics. Mostly the difference in academics to a regular university. So I actually took sample classes at UBC with a friend, and after the third lecture at UBC, I wanted to basically shoot myself. Not because the lectures were bad, quite the opposite. They were fantastic lectures. What I was mostly missing was that like interactive piece with the professor. So basically, I think the first lecture was on business. There was two lectures on business and one lecture on like hurricanes and like climate change and hurricane formation, which is super interesting topic. No idea about, and I had about a bazillion questions afterwards. Right, I had just had no opportunity to ask any of them because basically the professor walked out of the room afterwards. It's like done. And then there was such a lack of student engagement. Like everyone was there because they had to be there. My friend was there because she had to be there, and it is such a like lost opportunity when you have a super interesting subject, because I mean that's what academics are. They aren't generally super interesting, and then you just you know have no opportunity to engage with them. So that I think that was really what made me come to Quest. Block plan, engagement with the tutor. We're both in the same high school, so like we've sort of been socialized into that already. I think that's mostly academics, and then sort of what made me stay are the people. It's just there's just some great people here that are fun people, and the academics fun too. Let's see. Just are edgy.
Some of them definitely are.
Yeah.
We even talked to Darren.
Yeah.
And he answered all 12 of our questions.
Nice.
It's like a 45-minute interview.
Nice. Nice. What would you like Quest to change? I'm gonna just do like 3 or 4 or something.
Yeah.
What would you like Quest to change? This is an answer I get often at admissions, which is interesting because my official answer is basically one of the things that, and this is actually, I'm not lying when I say this, this is actually really one of the things I would love for Quest to change. It's higher education often is conditioned on the fact that we want to be like recognized. We want to be in a prestigious institution, right? Like I don't know if you did this. I definitely Googled Quest rankings before I came here because I was like, I want to know if I go to like top 10 schools in Canada kind of thing. Who wants to go to the like 32nd school in Canada kind of thing, right? And it's unfortunate, but it's true. And so when it comes to what would I like Quest to change, Quest isn't that known yet, which is partly because we're a 10-year institution. It's partly a bunch of other things. We can't actually be part of these big surveys and big rankings because we don't fulfill certain criteria since we aren't a research institution. But I would love for Quest to be more known so I don't have to constantly explain my degree. So it'd be really cool if I walk into a coffee shop near UBC or whatever, I said I go to Quest, and they'd be like, oh cool, what's your question? Because there's sort of mutual understanding that we know what Quest is and what we do here. It's unfortunately that's not too popular yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And I think that's actually one of the biggest things. I'd love for Quest to be like more recognized because I think we do great stuff here, but if nobody knows about that, what's the point? Anything else? I'm actually pretty happy the way Quest is going, and I love the fact that there's discussions about different topics that I have lots of opinions on. Like there's discussions, should we make our courses more transferable or not to other institutions, etc. pp. Which I think are super interesting discussions that are going on. I don't agree with all of the things that people say, like things like we should make them more transferable or something. I don't agree. I think Quest should stay individual, but just the fact that we have these discussions, I think, is super valuable. And so I think that should not change. We should keep having discussions about topics like, should we make them more transferable? Should we do things like that?
Have you seen much implemented? Like, because I know one thing Darren mentioned is there's a lot of talk and everyone just keeps talking and there's no change. Like, no one wants to take the first initiative. Have you seen a lot of change in your 3 years here?
I've seen some change. I've seen some change in some areas, and other areas have stayed stagnant and have been problematic. So one of the biggest changes that I've seen is admissions made some massive changes 2 years ago that caused a massive outrages. They took out the creative piece as a mandatory thing, and they added us to the Common App. Those are things that I would want to change back. The problem is the idea always was, let's have it for a year and see if it works, and if not, we'll change it again. Last year was a problematic year, and that's why that sort of falls out of the data set, so we're going to have to try it another year. But I personally want Quest to change that, because it takes a little away from the like uniqueness of Quest. If we're part of the Common App, right, then we're part of the Common App is one of those things where, you know, you list the universities, like people apply to like 25 different places, right? Quest was never the place that was supposed to be one of 25 on a list. That's not the kind of student we want. We want the student, like, when I first came to Quest, and I talked to a lot of people of why they came to Quest in the first place, one of the most common answers I actually heard was, this is the only university I ever applied to, this or nothing else. And I was similar. Quest is the only place I ever applied to. Because you believe in the educational model or you don't. Being part of the Common App, and again, we don't have good data for that yet, so it might actually help us with increasing our, increasing the outreach, right? Again, I was mentioning before that we really want to increase outreach. How do we do that? Do things like the Common App, right? So there's conflicting ideas there. So that's a big change that happened. Academically, not much has changed, except that discussions that have started a couple of years ago about remaking the foundation programs have progressed. So things like making EOS more standardized, so everybody's doing the same things, or things that are more and more happening. I think there's a similar push with BioBC now, and you'd have to talk to the academic council about that. But I think there's somewhat a push to make foundation programs more uniform across the base, so that everyone has a similar set of skills, and to move a little away from the tutor designs the class full stop. That was always the sort of individualistic piece of Quest, and so you could take global perspectives, and every single tutor did a different global perspectives. There's still that part of it. So if you take it with John Ritresco, very different than if you take it with Doug Monroe, because they focus on different things. Now the problem with that, obviously, is that students never really knew what they went into. And so while they heard from their friends what global perspectives was about, when they actually went into it, it was something completely different, because their tutor was different. So that is sort of a change that is starting to happen. The rhetoric program is being overworked a lot. The like rhetoric action plan is like sort of to get more data. So the idea is to get like data about student progress, because we don't actually have any. There's a bunch of admissions pieces that we do have about like the NSSE survey and stuff like that. But cohesively as a institution, we don't really have a set of data that says, you know, how much are people progressing in certain skills? Are they comfortable in mathematics after 4 years? Those kind of, and we want data for that. Ellen Flournoy is big in that, and so she's starting to collect on that. I think those are the biggest changes that I've seen. And then there were sort of personal changes as well. Things like we've adopted sexual misconduct manifesto. We started realizing that this place was often built on word of mouth. It was very much built on a coherent understanding of the rules, but we seem to have forgotten that nobody wrote down those rules. So there's a rule out there that, you know, 3 days, if you miss 3 days of a block, you drop out of Quest, because that's you drop out of a block because it's too much, right? There's an idea of block reps. There's this idea of you can take 1 day off for mental health. Those are all ideas that have been there and they've like lasted throughout the years, but nobody actually wrote them down. So it's a bit muddy what's actually institutional policy and what's not. So we're sort of working on that piece as well. So those are all changes that are sort of happening in the background, but they are happening. And if you are aware of them, you see them happening. If you're not aware of them, it sometimes seems like big sort of suddenly changes in decisions. Like there's debates about whether or not we should totally remake the foundation program. And we actually did. The foundation program 5 years ago had very different classes that were all thrown out, put in new ones. And as a young institution, you can still do that throughout the program, put in a new one. Those are conversations that continuously happen. And if you're part of them, you sort of see small changes and these things progressing. If you're not, then sometimes the like result out of them can be very like, whoa, what just happened?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I get that.
But yeah, so, and that's actually one of the things. I agree with some of them, I don't agree with others, but I actually think it's cool that we have these conversations and we should continue having them. Yeah, let's see, what are others? One more, we can do one more.
Sure, yeah.
What expectations did I have for Quest? How did Quest meet your expectations? I think Quest, and I truly believe that Quest was built on ideology. And this is why sort of all these discussions about the like financial future of Quest and stuff, all of that's going on right now. it's all pragmatic and it's important, but at the end of the day, it's important to realize that Quest was built on ideologies, on ideas of how to reshape higher education. And when you first come to Quest, especially the like earlier generations, I don't know if it's as much anymore, but like the early generations, that was the thing that sold them, right? Our academic program, the hope for higher education, that was the thing people got sold on. Not whether or not we had enough liquidity to buy a new building, right? That wasn't really a discussion. And so I think my expectations were very much aligned with that ideology, and I still, like, to this day, very much believe in the ideology. And so that sort of gives me the ability to overlook some of the like practical challenges, right? Like there are some practical challenges with the courses, right? Like, are we offering all the courses that we're promising, right? Are all the courses clustered together, like all the social science courses? Well, often all happen in the exact same block, right? And people go like, what the hell? But those are all like practical challenges at Quest. Overall, I think I still really believe in the ideology, and in terms of meeting that ideology, I think Quest in its idea has like met it. The like ground structures are there. In practice, we still obviously have work to do, right? There's still like improvements to the slates, there's improvements to tutor hiring, there's improvements to all these things. But I think, in my opinion, it pales in comparison to the idea of what Quest is supposed to be. And I think as long as we don't lose this like ideology of what we hope Quest needs to be and what we like, what the original vision was, we can actually stay, like, we can actually meet these expectations by just continuously working on them and talking about them, right? Just saying like, yeah, our like current tutor, like our current artist tutors are like sucky, right? We barely have any. We need more, right? But that doesn't mean that that impedes upon the idea of Quest. It's a practical inconvenience, if you want to like say it. But so yeah, in terms of expectations, I think Quest was always an ideological form that was both an institution, and I actually say this on my tours all the time. It's both an institution with buildings and all that stuff and all the jazz that comes with it, but it's also an idea. Quest is an idea of how to remodel higher education, and I think in terms of meeting that idea, we're really doing it. In terms of the practical, yeah, in my personal opinion, the practical things are irrelevant because they work, they don't work, who cares? But in terms of like having the idea and having people that believe in the idea, I think we're doing a good job. And so as long as we keep having people who believe in that idea, I think we'll meet our expectations. And as long as you just make it clear, right? Like, we are an idea for higher education, so we should strive for that ideal, and we shouldn't get like bogged down in these like practicalities that are just kind of like that consume you, and then you're like, oh my god, I don't know if this like institution's gonna live in the next 3 years. Like yeah, it will. So like, stop worrying and start thinking about like, and this is why I love the destination quest, and I'm actually like, this is what I'm working on right now. But it's the whole, it's this whole like reinvigorating what we want Quest to be, and we are a young institution, so we actually have a place in that. We can actually be part of that. Try to have a discussion at UBC about the Board of Governors. People will laugh at you because they're like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Whereas at Quest, like, we can actually go to the board and write a resolution that says we want student participation on the board, right? We want Quest to stay this like unique individual learning place, right? Screw the whole making it transferable to other places, because maybe we don't want to be transferable. Now that brings a bunch of logistical issues. I recognize that, but it's, yeah, I think as long as we stay true and reinvigorate this like vision and idea of what we want Quest to do for higher education, I think we're pretty good in doing that. And I think, yeah, major challenges now are the fact that we are starting to get bogged down into practicalities. We're starting to get bogged down in, are there enough courses, or like